Hello everyone. Welcome to another VTEX Developers webinar. If this is your first time here, this is a channel we created recently to connect with amazing developers in our ecosystem. We started off hosting our recurring office hours live events where you can get your technical questions answered and all the latest VTEX news that matter to anyone who codes. But you can expect more webinars like this one, as well as live demos, code walkthroughs, and interviews for developers. All the content we publish here is created to help you learn how to build storefronts, apps, and API integrations to deliver first-class digital commerce experiences with VTEX. If you like this idea, go ahead, take this opportunity to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and start spending more time with us. In today's webinar, we will be talking about optimizing your store for core Web Vitals. Web Vitals is an initiative by Google to provide unified guidance for quality signals that are essential to delivering a great user experience on the web. And as you all know, optimizing for quality of user experience is key to the long-term success of any site on the web. Whether you're a business owner, marketer, or developer, Web Vitals can help you quantify the experience of your site and identify opportunities to improve. And for this webinar, we have a very special guest. Dikla Cohen is a web ecosystem consultant at Google, helping their strategic partners around the globe achieve exemplary user experiences, speed, and business growth by leveraging cutting-edge web technologies and, of course, the latest Chrome web capabilities. Hey, Dikla, it's great to have you here. I think you're in mute. Let's unmute the microphone. Okay, now we're back.
Yes, thank you so much. It's great to be here.
So Dikla will get us started understanding and navigating through Core Web Vitals. Let me get your screen and get off the way so you can start.
Thanks so much. So hi, everyone. As mentioned, I'm Dikla. I'm a web ecosystem consultant at Google. And let's talk a bit about Core Web Vitals. We're going to talk about why they matter. Then we're going to talk a bit about the definitions and common challenges. Afterwards, we'll mention some tools. And at the very end, after everyone finishes, we'll also have a Q&A if you have any questions. So before we get too deep into what Core Web Vitals are, let's establish why they matter. At the heart of the Core Web Vitals initiative is establishing a way to measure a good user experience. We want the web to be fast, responsive, and generally just a pleasure to use. We've identified these three pillars of user experience. So the first one is loading. Is something happening on the page? Is it also meaningful to me, right? So if we have just a loading bar, something is happening, but it's not what I want to see. So is the main content of the page loading fast enough? Then we have interactivity. Is the page responsive? If I'm trying to do something on the page, is it responding fast enough? And then lastly, visual stability. Is the layout of the page stable? Are things jumping around or not? So the Core Web Vital metrics aim to measure this, and in a bit we'll go into more details. Another reason Core Web Vital matters is that, unsurprisingly, good user experience often leads to better business outcomes. There's a case study here from Vodafone. They improved their LCP by 31% in about 2.5 seconds, as you can see here. And that resulted in 8% more sales, 15% improvement in the lead to visit rate, and 11% improvement in the cart to visit rate. They saw these amazing changes just by improving their LCP, which is largest contentful paint, and in a bit we'll talk about it. There are many more case studies that show how improving Core Web Vitals leads to significant uplift in different business KPIs, and you can check out some of them on web.dev. And if that kind of stuff is really helpful with showing stakeholders why this is a good investment to make. Lastly, another way Core Web Vitals are important to many people is that they are now part of the page experience ranking signals on Google search. So let's delve into the definitions. The metrics we've defined as core vitals are LCP, largest contentful paint, CLS, cumulative layout shift, and FID, first input delay. Before we go into each one, just to mention that to ensure you're hitting this target for most of your users, we look at the different thresholds at the 75th percentile of page loads. So you don't need all your users to reach those. There's always edge cases, but looking at the 75th percentile is a good way to ensure that most of your users are getting a good user experience. The first metric we're going to talk about is LCP, largest contentful paint. We've mentioned it before with the Vodafone case study. It measures the render time of the largest content element visible within the viewport. So that can be an image or a block of text. You can see that it looks at it throughout the lifetime of the page. If we look at the image on the right, you can see that in the beginning, it's just a bit of text or a small image until the page loads, and then usually it'll be a large part of text or a large image on the page. We have a surprise segment called Quiz Time. You can go to the live chat and answer. And the first question is, in which scenario will LCP stop being measured? Is it after 10 seconds? Is it when the user interacts with the page? Once the main thread is free for 2 seconds, or when the first image is loaded? So I'm wondering, what are the things that you look at? I'm going to give you a second to think about it. And the correct answer is when the user interacts with the page. So once the user interacts with your page, we stop measuring LCP. We assume that at that point they've received the most important information on the page, and therefore whatever is measured up till that point is the LCP. Things that cause poor LCP are things like slow server response times, render blocking JavaScript and CSS, slow resource load times, and client-side rendering. So basically anything that delays the LCP displaying on the page. This is deferring the loading of any non-critical code and resources can really go a long way in avoiding those pitfalls. The next metric is CLS, cumulative layout shift. We all know this experience of reading an article, loading a page, a shopping page, and then things are taking time to load, things are shifting around, and that really is not a pleasant experience. It forces you to find your place again. And what CLS does is it calculates and measures how much your page's layout moves around on the screen. Things that can cause poor CLS are images without dimensions. So if the image loads gradually, the page shifts throughout. If we have embeds or ads or iframes without dimensions, they're dynamically injected and then cause the page to move, or they take time to load. And then different web fonts causing flashing of text. And another quiz time. When do layout shifts usually impact CLS more? At the top of the page, in the middle of the page, at the bottom of the page, or it doesn't matter? And the answer is at the top of the page. This is what most of your users see. So any layout shifts at the top of the page will impact the vast majority of your users, and therefore the metrics that we measure. And that it also impacts everything below it. So that adds up. And making sure, again, the critical resources for the first viewport are loaded first, and that space is saved for any dynamically loaded content is really important. Lastly, we have FID, first input delay. It measures the time from when a user first interacts with a page until the time when the browser is actually able to respond to that interaction. So if we have someone on the page interacting with it, the browser, which is a single threaded, if it's busy, it takes time for it to be available to respond. And that is actually what we measure, how long it takes from the interaction for the thread to be free and able to respond to that interaction. Things that cause poor FID is at large JavaScript and long tasks. So long JavaScript execution time, large JavaScript bundles, render blocking JavaScript, and so forth. Anything that keeps the main thread busy. Last question. Google is working on new Web Vital metrics. True or false? The answer is true. So we have another quick segment here, which is possible new metrics. We're currently exploring some new ways to measure user experience, specifically around responsiveness and smoothness. For the responsiveness side, we've mentioned, I just talked about FID, that it looks as when the main thread is free, but that doesn't take into account the full event duration, because after the thread is free and able to respond, we still have the resultant calls and the next frame paint. And we want to look at all of that because that is what defines the entire user experience. The metric we're looking at also considers and aggregates all interactions on the page, not just the first one as FID does today. The experimental metric is already included in some of our measuring tools, and to learn more and give feedback, please take a look at web.dev. Another thing we're exploring is how to measure smoothness, whether it's scrolling or other animations. We want to see how to measure that part of the user experience, as those can really be slowed down and create a not ideal experience. And that's something else we're looking into. And we're seeking feedback. So please look, if you're interested, please look at web.dev. There are different tools for measuring core web vitals, and measuring and tracking them is a crucial step towards improving them. Before we look at the different tools, it's worth spending a moment understanding the two different sources of data you'll come across. At large, we have field data and lab data. Field data is the metrics that are gathered from real users browsing your site. Whether the measurement is done on the browser or on the code on the site, it looks at what the users are actually experiencing when they reach your website. Lab data, on the other hand, is based on simulations of page loads on your site or on single page loads of your site. So it's really a fraction of the experience. It depends on what hardware you're using at the time, but and that doesn't give you a full picture, but it is really useful to understand what is happening. So field data is great to understand the actual experience that your users are getting, and lab data is great to understand what's happening while you're developing or when you want to debug the field data findings. For opted-in Chrome users, Chrome measures the core web vital events previously described against the URL of the page, and we upload those metric figures to an anonymous database called the Chrome User Experience. It is real user measurements, and it is available via different tools. This is, as I said, the field data. This is the important part. And then you can use Lighthouse as a lab data tool. It runs a series of audits against the page, and it includes core vital metrics and other UX performance metrics. Again, it runs on a specific environment, so it doesn't necessarily mean this is what your users are experiencing, but it is really helpful when you want to deep dive. It also shows different opportunities and diagnostics. So there are different Google tools, as we mentioned, Lighthouse and Crux. PageSpeed Insights includes both Lighthouse and Crux data. The Google Search Console is based on Crux, so also field data, but it looks at it in a bit on the page level, and it groups together different types of pages, which is really helpful. There's the Chrome DevTools, which is lab data that you run on your device. So it's not run in a lab. And therefore, you can look at metrics like first input delay, which isn't relevant for Lighthouse because there's no user interaction. But that's something you can do with DevTools or with the Web Vitals Chrome extension. But this is still lab data because it doesn't look at the general experience of your users. And coming soon, very exciting, VTEX is developing an in-house tool that will be available this year to track performance, so stay tuned. There's also, in addition to all the web dev resources I've mentioned, there's also the Core Web Vitals FAQ. I've extracted here the first question, which I'm sure was on your mind. Where does the Core Web Vitals data that search considers comes from? And this should have, I should have done a quiz time for that, is the data comes from the Chrome User Experience Report. So to summarize, Core Web Vitals strive to achieve a good user experience. Improving Core Web Vitals often leads to better business outcomes. Core Web Vitals comprise of LCP, FID, and CLS. We are always striving to evolve and improve the metrics. We use field data to analyze how the site is actually doing, and you should use lab data to develop, debug, and alert. And measuring and tracking is a crucial step towards improving the metrics. So that's all from me. Thank you. Back to you.
Thanks so much for that presentation, Dikla. It's so interesting that while there are so many metrics that we can track in websites these days, we can express so much about the quality of the user experience with only these three metrics, the Core Web Vitals. It's super convenient that Google provides us with a large tool set we can leverage to measure and improve our scores. And of course, having that in your VTEX admin will be so much better. So looking forward to that launch. After all, Web Vitals and Core Web Vitals represent the best available signals developers have today to measure quality of experience across the web. Although these signals are not perfect, right? You said that they change across time and some things might evolve, but always, thinking based on data, based on real user experience. That was really good. Thank you so much, Dikla.
Thank you.
All right. So that was a great start. Moving on to our next presentation, I'm happy to invite a dear friend who is no stranger to this YouTube channel. Laricia Mota is a software engineer at VTEX, but she also doubles as our Office Hours Brazil host. So if you speak Portuguese and you want to see more of her, come and join us for our weekly event Tuesday afternoons. Hey, Laricia.
Hi, George. How are you? I'm excited to be here.
I'm ready.
Talk about FastStore.
Yeah, so Laricia is currently working with the FastStore team, and in her presentation, she'll talk to us about it, our open source toolkit to build lightning fast storefronts. So are you ready to go, Laricia?
Yes.
Awesome.
Let's jump right in.
I'll let you have the slides and our audience.
Thank you. So hi, everyone. As George said, my name is Laricia Mota. I'm a software engineer at VTEX, and I'm currently working on the FastStore team. And before telling you about exactly what is FastStore, let me start explaining why we created this new framework to build VTEX storefronts. So next. Okay. First of all, speed matters. You might think it is a common sense that page performance directly impacts the shopper experience, but we are not just guessing here. Quite a few studies have shown a strong correlation between page performance and store conversion rates. So the faster the page loads, the higher the conversion rate. For instance, in this study published by Google, they found that a 0.1 second improvement in mobile site speed increases conversion rates by 8.4% for retail online stores. And that without changing anything else in the store. It happens just because the shoppers aren't waiting for pages to load. So in businesses operating with low profit margins, this kind of improvement should be a no-brainer. Okay, so we are convinced that performance is key, but why are we creating a new solution for storefronts? Because creating fast websites is hard, and keeping them fast over time is even harder, especially when you are pushing out new features without checking how they impact performance, how they impact the core web vitals. In other words, you can't build a fast website and keep it fast over time without making performance a top priority in the development process. Something that we've learned in all those years implementing stores is that the only way to achieve a best-in-class performance is building a high-performing storefront from day one. Because we can only improve on already existing store up to a certain point regarding performance. We see that it gets really tricky and complex to track down performance bottlenecks in the source code when a lot has been done without having performance in mind. Therefore, in general, we understand that performance solutions need to be built with this goal since the beginning. And now comes our solution. FastStore is our open source toolkit based on React and the Jamstack architecture. It was created focusing on performance and made to be entirely headless and composable. I believe that the main 2 points to highlight from this definition are, first of all, open source. So we moved away from proprietary to open source technologies so that the developers that use FastStore won't need to learn stuff only to be used with VTEX solutions. They can use the tools and the frameworks they already know and love and are also able to leverage from the communities involved in those open source projects that we are using, such as Gatsby and Next.js. But it is important to note that we are not only using open source technologies, but FastStore is itself an open source project. So developers have access to the entire code, to the documentation, and they are more than welcome to contribute with us. And the second point that I would like to highlight is, obviously, high performance. We redesigned the development experience to offer new tools to guarantee performance in the long run. Now, going deeper on the solution, let's talk about what it is composed by. First of all, there is the FastStore starter library. It is a library of templates, which are essentially store themes. So each one can be specific for a segment, for example, grocery, fashion, electronics, furniture, etc. And as the name suggests, they help developers to start implementing the store. So the code already comes with the complete store structure, and the developer has only to customize it to the business's specific needs. And as an open source technology, we also accept starters that are built by members of our community. So if you build something that is amazing and unique, let us know, then we will help you to spread the word. Now, what do we use to build the store starters? The code that we implemented is split into 3 packages. The first is FastStore UI. It is a React component library, and it is CSS framework agnostic, which means that you can use whichever CSS framework that you would like. It also complies with accessibility standards, and its components are built with best practices of performance in mind. We also designed it to follow the atomic design pattern. So our components are classified as atoms, molecules, and organisms. So on our documentation, you are going to see the components divided into those classifications. The second package is the FastStore SDK. It is an extensible state management library. So it handles states from the user session and the store cart, for example. And besides that, it is also compatible with Google Analytics 4. So the developer can add some analytics capabilities to the store. And last but not least, the package FastStore API. It uses GraphQL to create interfaces for querying products and collections, and for mutating store cards. So it allows the connection between the store and your e-commerce provider. But something worth mentioning here is that the types defined in this package are not platform specific. So you can use it with VTEX Commerce Platform or any other. And we also follow the schema.org pattern. So to wrap things, FastStore is only a part of our more broad solution. We have solutions for each step of the development process. VTEX IO FastStore, which was the focus of my presentation, solves the build stage. But we also have the VTEX IO WebOps, our managed infrastructure in the ship stage. And Vinny is going to deep dive about it in the next presentation, so stay tuned. And we also have the VTEX Headless CMS in the managed stage. It is a no-code content management system that allows non-technical teams to create, edit, schedule, and publish content in the storefront without using a single line of code. And the interesting part is that they all work well together. It is a highly connected solution, but you're not required to use them all if you don't want to. You can use FastStore with Netlify or Verso instead of VTEX IO WebOps if you would like, for example. And you can also choose not to use VTEX Headless CMS and use any other of your liking. It is a truly decoupled solution. So if this presentation made you curious about FastStore, you can learn more about it in our documentation in faststore.dev. There you can find tutorials, how-to guides, and references for our VTEX packages. And then you'll be able to access and play around with any of our starters. Thank you for watching. That was it for me today. So back to you, George.
That was awesome, Laricia. Thanks for sharing. I loved one of the things you said. Creating fast websites is hard, and keeping them fast over time is even harder. It's really nice that with the latest version of VTEX IO, which features FastStore and WebOps and our new VTEX Headless CMS, development and marketing teams can collaborate to build content-rich experiences, blazing fast by design. After all, if a shopper is eager to buy your product, you don't want them to give up because you kept them waiting for the website to load, right? Thanks so much for your presentation, ladies.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so we talked about building fast stores, but how can we consistently ship new features and deploy them to production without compromising the performance we worked so hard to achieve? Vinicius Agostini, or Vini as he prefers to be called, thinks about this all the time. He's also a software engineer at VTEX, currently working with the WebOps team. And in his presentation, he will talk about how and why we built this high-performance platform for fast stores. Vini, take it away.
Yeah. Hello, George. And this is a great question. I hope to be able to answer on this presentation. I'm here to talk about WebOps, a high-performance platform for fast stores. So first of all, what is WebOps? And to understand what is WebOps, let's think about what is the main goal of FastStore that Laricia just showed us. So if we want to summarize in one phrase, the main goal of FastStore is to deliver the fastest stores on the internet, or even better, help our partners to deliver these fastest stores on the internet. But as also Laricia mentioned, implementing really fast store is one thing, and keep it high performant over time is another thing. It's way harder, and basically the WebOps product exists to help our partners on this journey. So besides performance, when we talk about online VTEX stores, we also have a set of requirements that we need to guarantee an amazing digital experience, such as quality, resiliency, security, scalability, and cost effectiveness. They all have a big role on delivering an amazing store. And our team helps also to achieve each of these points when we talk about implementing amazing stores. And on top of that, another thing that it's the core of our mission is to bring the best developer experience around the FastStore ecosystem. And when we think about the best development experience, we right away think about CI/CD. So we on this product we've packed years of learning on how to make the best online stores on the market and incorporated in these main two products: high performance focused CI/CD and a platform to serve fast stores. So basically, this product takes care of building, testing, deploying, and serving stores created with fast stores. For that, when we were shaping the solution, we
I think, Vinicius, I think your internet broke a little bit.
Want to give freedom to our developers to innovate, our developers and merchants to innovate. We want to support them on this journey, but they are the really protagonists of their own story. Every decision that they make should be data informed, so knows what's best for their business. But our mission is to support them, providing all the data that they need to make the best decisions. Sorry, George, can you confirm that you're
Yeah. We just had a little bit of connectivity issues, but I think we're back live.
Okay.
You want to sum up?
Are you all hearing me well?
I'm hearing you well. A little bit, like your microphone is echoing a little bit, but I can hear you well now.
Okay.
Technical
problems for home office.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we think about the goals of WebOps, we have freedom in mind. So we want to give developers and merchants freedom to innovate and do everything that they need to deliver an amazing online experience to their shoppers. They are the ones that call the shots. So they are the ones that make decisions about their business. And our mission is to help them, providing every data that they need to make the best decision possible. And we also provide peace of mind, both for developers and merchants, because we want developers to ship their changes with the peace of mind that they are not causing regressions on the store or its performance. And we want to give peace of mind to merchants, knowing that their store will always be resilient and we won't have impacts on performance as the new features are getting added. So talking a little bit more about the principles that we follow, we incorporated some principles from Jamstack. Jamstack is basically a new architecture for developing websites, and like they leverage a lot on modern build tools. They are strongly based on static site generate, and they are able to deliver like amazing performance websites. And they have a set of principles that if you follow, you can have great results. And we incorporated some of them on our platform. So the first of them is everything lives on Git. So Git is the source of truth, and everything involved on the storefront is on the same repo. So if you have access to this repo, you know exactly what is the state of the application and everything related to the source code of it. We have automated builds, so every commit gets built, and we generate a live deploy preview. So you can always keep track of your changes live, and it's really good because we always want developers to iterate as fast as possible and be able to see their changes live. It's really helpful. And we also incorporated atomic deploys. So since everything sits on one Git repo, for each release we can generate an immutable version that is a consistent version of the storefront. And with that, we can roll back and forward to always guaranteed consistent states of the store. Thinking a little bit more about how do we operate the store, we incorporated some GitOps principles too. So this Git being the source of truth is a principle for Jamstack, and we also saw on GitOps, and maybe we both look to the same place. We also have continuous delivery. So what you see in the main branch is what you see in production. This is really helpful for developers that are seeing the production start state and can go exactly at the source code in the version to see what is happening. And we have automated tests and deploys. So everything that is related to our CI results and the deployment of the store is done on GitHub. Diving a little bit on our CI/CD solution, the first thing that we need to talk about is deploy previews. So everything that we run, every test is based on a live version of the store that runs in an environment that is replicated from the production one. So when you see your preview, it's running on a similar environment from production. So no surprises when there is not a lot of diversions between production and development. And this gives confidence for developers to ship their changes, seeing the deploy preview and knowing that it will be the same in production. We measure code quality. So we strongly believe that code quality is one of the biggest factors to implement good stores. And we give this we test this for every commit as well. Using SonarQube, we execute integration tests. So we provide a set of initial suite of tests to make sure that the store is getting well tested on their main flows. But as new features get added and you don't want regression, our partners are also able to write new tests, and they get executed for each commit that is done. Also leveraging the deploy previews. And last but not least, we have Lighthouse CI. So we saw in the previous presentations that measuring performance as we iterate on the store is really important. And we use this tool for Google to constantly measure performance on the store. So let's look a little bit more on how we deliver all these capabilities. So basically, all the experience is on GitHub, and we use GitHub checks for each of these tests. And if one of them fails, you will see immediately and be able to deep dive on the logs and fix everything that you need to have peace of mind when you are releasing. Let's look a little bit more on how performance tests are done with Lighthouse. So basically, for each commit, we we deploy a deploy preview and run Lighthouse on top of this preview. And with the results, we can measure if everything was successful or not.
We're still live, but I think
To the reports, and if you follow this link, you will get report. Hand, if you have some problem, able to merge the pull request and the same thing to see the opportunities and not to cause any regressions on performance. It's important to notice that this Lighthouse is lab measurement, and the true performance of the site will be defined on the nature through core WebOps. This is really helpful during the development workflow, so we can catch a lot of performance problems before they get released. And talking a little bit more about CD, this is really related to GitOps. So to deploy, you have a nice version of your store, and you want to deploy. It's just a matter of merging your pull request to the main branch, and the new version of the store will be released. And to roll back, it's a matter of words. So when you have everything on Git, you let's talk a little bit about our managed platform as well. So our managed platform has the main goal of our managed platform is to serve stores and deploy preview, leveraging the most web servers and CDN. So this is really important because we are always talking about performance, and having a platform that is high performant is a main concern for us. That's why we decided to do our own, mainly because we open to open source frameworks. So we support the main frameworks on the market, such as Gatsby and Next.js. But we are, as a platform, we focus on e-commerce. So we have a set of optimizations, focus on serving online stores. And on VTEX, we are really good on providing resilience to our clients. So we are well known to be able to handle big spikes of traffic and big clients, and having this engineering knowledge on a platform that serves the stores gives our merchants a big peace of mind. And I think that's it on my side. Thank you, everyone. And back to you, George.
Powerful stuff, Vini. I really like using WebOps because using Git flow is so familiar, right? It makes life a lot easier knowing that what's running in production is exactly what I see in my default branch. And also having that deploy preview and all those checks makes code reviews a lot faster and safer because you don't have to guess what changed within the code or rely on screenshots or whatever. You can navigate to a live review of your store, have integration tests, static code analysis, build logs, and of course, Lighthouse CI to ensure your store is optimized for core and vitals. After all, this is what this webinar is all about, right?
Yes.
Great stuff, Vini. Thanks for sharing. I'll put you back on our backstage. And next up, we have a true performance ninja joining us in this live transmission. Tiago Gimenes, who everyone simply calls Gimenes. is also a software engineer at VTEX and one of the masterminds who envisioned and built the FastStore project and technology from the very beginning. I always learn something new when I have the opportunity to talk with him, and today you will too, as he will share some of his knowledge on performance best practices for online stores. Jimenez, what do you have for us today?
All right. Hi, George. Thanks for the introduction. Well, I'm Gimenes, and today I'm going to share with you 5 performance tricks for creating performance stores. We use these tricks and much more at our starters, so check them out at faststore.dev/starters. Okay, so the first trick of today has to do with server response times. So server response times is the amount of time it takes for the server to respond a request to the user. Server response times affect many performance-related metrics, like load times, FCP, LCP, and etc. If the server responds quickly to your requests, if the server responds quickly to a request, the server has a low latency. Servers that these and many more techniques to decrease server latency. Okay, let me restart. Kind of nervous here. There are lots of people watching. So
Don't worry,
guys
I'm
know,
with you, Jimenez. Hold my hand.
yeah, yeah. Okay, like developers like just to code, and present can be quite hard sometimes. But
No, don't
we
worry.
were talking about server latency. So a good technique to decrease server latency can be given by Jamstack. So Jamstack solves the latest problem by pre-rendering all content of the website and distributing it globally through a CDN. Okay, so this means that all pages HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are generated before the user enters the website. And serving the website then becomes a problem of serving static files. Okay, so CDNs are particularly good at serving static files, since they have servers across the globe, which reduce round-trip times, decreasing the final server response times. Okay, so this first performance trick should be more than enough for serving a small e-commerce website. However, as e-commerce grows, the number of products, thus the number of pages, increases exponentially. We have cases of websites with more than 11 million pages. This amount of pages means that releasing a new version of your e-commerce can take hours or even days. Well, e-commerce operators can't wait for hours or days for releasing a new banner or promotion. They need to do it right on time. So for our store to be fast, not only for final users, but also for e-commerce operators and developers, we at FastStore use the partial build approach. See, e-commerce websites have a huge Pareto-like distribution on page visits. This means that 80% of the traffic is handled by only 20% of pages on the website. This allows us to create a smart static site generation process where only 20% most accessed pages are built ahead of time and saved on the CDN, while the rest of pages are built lazily as the users visit your site. This creates a fast deploy experience for both developers and e-commerce operators, allowing deploys in minutes instead of hours. Incomplete builds, however, create this fast experience. However, users visiting those 80% of pages that were not pre-rendered should have a really good experience too, right? So how do we do this? So if you take a look at product pages and their variations, we see that they have a few things in common. So all pages have the same header and footer, for instance. This third performance trick relies on using a design pattern called app shell to improve the user experience on those 80% of pages of non-pre-rendered pages. Okay, so what's the trick? So the trick is, while performing the website static generation, pre-render those 20% of pages plus one generic template containing only the header and the footer. This template is called the app shell template. When the final user requests a non-pre-rendered page, the CDN delivers the app shell template instead of the full page. The app shell then fills the missing bits of the page on the user browsers. This technique brings a better experience to the final user since it does a progressive, no-blocking loading of the final page. Okay, and Well, the fourth performance tip has to do with customization. As we saw, static site generation is good for creating performatic websites of any sizes. However, in the e-commerce world, we are going to a future of personalized shopping experiences, where each page can be crafted for a single user. Conciliating the performance of static websites with personalized experiences is a major factor in creating a great shopping experience. At FastStore, we address this issue by using a hybrid rendering approach. The idea behind this approach is that most of the web page is the same for most of the users. Only minor parts depends on the user viewing the page. So common parts can be pre-rendered on the final HTML, while user-dependent components can be filled on the user browsers. You can see this in action in our product page, where the buy button is lazy loaded, depending on the product's availability. Product availability may depend on the user's geolocation, for instance. However, static portions like product name and image can be pre-rendered, improving performance metrics like LCP and others. Okay, so finally, the last performance trick I'm going to show you can improve your website interactivity and overall UX. A key aspect of doing business online is understanding your customer. Usually, tools for understanding user behavior and crossing user data are shipped in a third-party script. These scripts are really hard to optimize since you don't really have control of their sizes and their processing needs. Tools like Tag Manager and other encourage business users on adding these scripts without really having the know-how on the performance impacts of these scripts may have on the page, right? So, for instance, we had cases where e-commerces added more than 120 different scripts via Tag Manager to their websites. Hopefully, recently, a new project called PartyTown claims to have solved this problem. It allows the website developer to place these third-party scripts in a web worker, freeing the main thread, making website more snappy, and improving metrics like feed, first input delay. Okay, so to summarize what I showed you guys today, so we have 5 performance tips. These tips are: start generate your e-commerce and place it on a CDN. This reduces the first response times and improves metrics like FCP and LCP, etc. Use the Pareto-like distribution to build only the most visited pages of your website, so deploy times are really low. Create a shell template for the non-pre-rendered pages, so users visiting those non-pre-rendered pages still have a good experience on your website. Also, pre-render static portions of our website and defer personalized data to the browser. This way, we can have like those rich personalized experience where prices and availabilities are dependent on user geolocation or on custom promotions. And finally, free the main thread by running third-party scripts on a web worker, so the app feels like snappy and they don't really see the screen flickering. Okay, so thanks again for everybody watching us. For these and many more other performance tricks that we do, please visit us at faststore.dev/starters, so you can get like all of the performance tricks. We have like many other different interactivity tricks, how we do tricks for improving largest contentful paint, and many others. So back to you, George.
Great tip, Gimenes. As you always say, performance is not achieved through a feature you ship, but through a process you follow. And having the discipline to follow through is really about a change of mentality. But these ideas you shared will definitely help those who are just getting started in their journey to peak performance. Only by prioritizing and learning more about performance best practices every day will they be able to keep it over time. But that was a great start, and thanks for sharing.
Thank you, George.
Okay, that was it for presentations, but we have one final surprise for you. Yes, we have a final surprise. It's a Q&A session with our product managers from FastStore. For the final 10 minutes of our live transmission, Lailson, Bandeira, and Bringuente We'll answer some of your burning questions about our storefront technologies. Welcome on in, Lailson. I think you're mute, Lailson. But I like reading your lips. It's a nice practice for my brain.
Did you get it? Did you get it? One more thing.
Yeah, yeah, I did. No, now we're on.
Cool. Hey, everyone. We're here today to answer some questions that usually come up when we talk about the products, right? We'll start with some questions we already have here, and then proceed to the questions in the chat box. So let's go. The top question we get is, how can I use FastStore and WebOps? Well, the products are still on closed beta, which means they are available only for qualifying customers, at least in production mode. But FastStore is completely open source, as Laricia said. So you can already try it locally on your machine and even deploy it to cloud platforms such as Verso, Netlify, Gatsby Cloud for testing purposes. We recommend starting with one of our base stores, the ones Gimenes just showed, the address. There are versions in Next.js and Gatsby, so you can clone the repository and follow the reading instructions. So go at faststore.dev/starters, this address, yes, and try them, and don't forget to send us your impressions, okay? Anna.
Hi, everyone. And the next questions we receive most is, when will the products be available for all customers? We still don't have a firm question on this, but we expect to release an open beta version at some point in the next year. In the meantime, we'll keep improving the product and adding new features and integrations with VTEX products. And again, since FastStore is open source, you can track each step of the product evolution at our GitHub repository, VTEX/FastStore. Finally, a lot of people ask us which customers are already using the product. There are around 12 stores in development right now and 3 live so far, Marim Brasil, Carrefour Mercado, and Avon. Check them out and see for yourself what fast stores are like. And while you're there, maybe purchase something, right? Lailson.
Now let's go to the questions from the audience. And the first one is, let me see here. Great. From Kevin. Hey, Kevin. Does bandwidth and internet connection speed affect CWV and Lighthouse scores? We did a test between Michigan and Toronto for the same VTEX site with vastly different results. I think the best person to respond to this question here is Dikla, right, Dikla?
Hi, yes. Happy to answer that. So it's a simple answer. It's yes, it does affect. Basically, as we've covered, the core web vitals are measured for your real user experiences. And if your users are in places where the bandwidth and the internet connection is not that strong, then they will experience it in a maybe not as well as people who have really strong internet connections. And that's something you need to take under consideration when you build your website. Who are your users? Who are your customers? And how you need to adjust your website to them. So if you have users mostly in places that they're using a low-end mobile device and they don't have the best internet access, then you really need to think about what kind of experience. Maybe having a really big animation or a very high resolution image, while it might look really nice on your laptop with high-speed internet, maybe for them the better experience will be a lower resolution image, for instance. So those are things you need to take under consideration.
Great, great. That's why I love Core Vitals tests, because it uses real data, right? So it's right from your audience. That's
exactly.
Awesome. Let's go to the next question. From Bruno. Will FastStore WebOps have additional costs for current VTEX clients? The correct answer, the more honest answer actually is we don't know. We're still studying billing models and trying to understand what costs are involved. So for now, it's completely free, at least where we're still in beta. But we don't know about the future. But as soon as you know, we'll tell you. Bruno's on fire. Next one is from him too. Does WebOps work only with GitHub, or would we be able to use it with other Git providers like Bitbucket? I think Vinny is the best person to answer that. Right, Vinny?
Hello again. Thanks, Lailson. So great question, Bruno. Unfortunately, sorry. We started our MVP focus on GitHub because most of our partners use the GitHub as a Git provider, but it is already on our roadmap to support these other ones like Bitbucket or GitLab as well. So right now, no, but it's on our roadmap.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, we don't have firm dates yet, but again, as soon as we know, we'll let you know. João Paulo, can we use WebOps on current VTEX IO stores, non-touch store? That's for you too, Vinny.
Nice. Short answer, no. Because, unfortunately, no. Because WebOps is designed specifically for FastStore. So there is a lot of architecture and conceptual differences between how we do stores on VTEX IO using render and how fast stores are implemented. So even though we have WebOps and it provides an amazing developer experience, we are unable to support current VTEX IO stores.
Yeah, the whole stack, right? FastStore, WebOps, and the CMS. We didn't talk about the CMS, but it's part of this package too. They were built from scratch for this new architecture. So yeah, they are very tied together to get maximum performance. From Paulo again, any tips on how to set up CWV check on the CI/CD pipeline for a general purpose project non VTEX? Do you want to answer that too, Vinny?
I have an answer.
Maybe George. Okay.
That's a great question for an office hours. So, João, check out community.vtex.com, make that question, add the office hours tag, and we'll address it in the next office hours. How about that? I think we need some more time to kind of understand where you're coming from. But in general, we're going to have more information about how your repositories are set up, what you're using. Okay, so we don't have any ready, but promise that we'll get to it if you post it on community.vtex.com.
That's why I got cliffhanger. Great.
All right, so I think that's all the time we have for questions today, Lailson. So let me just give the final announcements. Thanks for the Q&A. And I think if you have any more questions that haven't been answered, feel free to share them as comments in this video. So not in the live chat, the actual comments that will come up in the future if you're watching us from the future. We'll keep track and we'll do our best to answer them. And if you're eager to build, manage, and run blazing fast storefronts that convert, I have good news for you. By visiting the link that will be showing you on your screen right now, this one, you'll be able to sign up for the waiting list, and you'll be able to get notified about the updates of our new storefront technologies, FastStore, WebOps, Headless CMS, and when they will be available for you to use in your store. So thank you for sticking with us until the end of this webinar. We had a great time. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed our content and to subscribe to our channel to get notified whenever we have new stuff out. What happened and couldn't have happened any other way. You have to understand most people are not ready to be unplugged. But I do not believe it's a matter of hope. It's simply a matter of time. And this time is now. See you next time, everyone.